to credit the offensive line, they looked great in the running game, and this running game looked better than it has all year. The one thing we will say about Master Teague, and there's been some criticism about comparing him to J.K. Dobbins, and he's just not that explosive or doesn't cut and move like J.K. Dobbins, but he's decisive. He's going to go forward. He's going to lean forward, and it's almost always going to be a positive play because he just determines this is where the crease is, this is where I'm going. And if the offensive line's doing its job, then it makes for a very effective day.
Absolutely. And you finally saw that in this game. We've talked previously that the rushing game was doing its job in terms of overall numbers, but the individual numbers weren't where they needed to be. We've discussed the running backs' yards per carry and whatnot. This game looked more like what I expected Ohio State's running game to look like. They were blocking well up front. The running backs were hitting their holes. Master Teague, as you mentioned, 26 carries, 169 yards. Those are both career highs for him, touchdowns. Trey Sermon had 9 carries for 60 yards. And what I really liked about this was as Teague got going, they stuck with him. And that didn't take Trey Sermon out of the game, but instead of rotating drive by drive each running back in, which is what they've done not only this year, but you think back a couple of years with J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber, they went with the hot hand. And it was clear pretty early on that Master Teague was going to have a good day. And glad to see Ohio State stick with that, because I think when you start taking guys out and switching up who's playing on which drive and whatnot, you lose some of that rhythm. And Teague was able to really get rolling. And I think that led to making better decisions, hitting holes, and then, you saw some of those big plays that came because of that. And, I think that's the approach Ohio State needs to have going forward. This back and forth thing, maybe early in games as a guy as you try to figure out which guy is hot. And if neither guy establishes himself, maybe you stick with that. But I just think it's too difficult for a running back to really get momentum when he's coming out of the game every other drive. So that was good to see. But yeah, I think all around they wanted to establish the run. I think especially with the blitzes Indiana was throwing, this was important because that kind of alleviated the pressure on Justin Fields. And obviously run blocking was a good thing. So all in all, a good day there. And I expect this to carry forward. I think you're going to have to run the ball. It's going to get colder and the weather's going to get worse. I mean, we're going to see games outside in December, which is something we don't normally see in the Big Ten, and the weather will not cooperate every week. So this week was rainy, but not terribly cold. December 12th against Michigan, I can't imagine will cooperate as much. So the need to run the ball will be there, and I think the fact that now that they've shown they can do it, and not that Indiana's a great rush defense, but good enough that you feel comfortable with this going forward.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love, best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's our mission each and every day. We got Pat Murphy on the line from Bucknuts 247 Sports. Check out his work and the rest of the staff there, again, at bucknuts.com.